I shouldn't be telling this story. In fact, I've spent years trying to forget it, without success. Amid my wanderings looking for cases that were never explained, accounts that people prefer to hide or simply refuse to mention, I heard it all from an elderly rabbi on a rainy late afternoon in London. He spoke in a hushed voice, as if afraid someone might be listening. And when he finished, his eyes were watery, as if he had relived something no human being should remember. Since then, no matter how hard I try, I can't help thinking about what he told me. I usually call this story The Neighbor in Room 213. David Levin lived alone on the second floor of an old Victorian building in Camden Town, a London district. The building, originally built as housing for immigrants in the early 20th century, carried a heavy atmosphere, as if every brick held memories of those who had passed through. But David didn't mind. For someone who worked from 2 in the afternoon until nearly midnight, cataloging rare books at a university library, the apartment's silence was perfect. He had moved in 2 months prior, and since then, something bothered him, but never enough to drive him away, until that night. It all started with a soft, almost imperceptible sound, a whisper behind the bedroom wall. David thought it was the old plumbing, maybe the neighbor, until one early morning, the whisper turned into something distinct, something he understood as words. A phrase repeated in a scratchy voice. Natalie, Natalie, Natalie. David froze. He recognized that expression because he had studied Hebrew out of curiosity years ago. It meant, "Open for me." But why would that come from the walls? Since he was exhausted, he convinced himself it was a dream. But the next night, as he turned off the lights, he heard it again. Louder this time, more urgent.
Better leave.
With the hairs on the back of his neck standing up and his heart racing, David got up and turned on the light. Total silence. Only the hum of the mini fridge in the kitchen. He decided to stay awake all night, listening to progressive rock on his Walkman, pretending nothing was happening. 2 days later, something even stranger happened. Returning from work, David noticed the door next to his apartment, which had always been locked, was finally open. A rusty metal plate hung crookedly. 213. He never knew what that room was for. He had asked the janitor once. The old man just shrugged and mumbled,
"It's never been used."
But the door was now ajar, breathing out a coolness that didn't match the stifling London summer. And then he saw something inside. A charcoal symbol, large, drawn on the inner wall. It was a 6-pointed star, but distorted, almost spiraled, accompanied by ancient Hebrew letters. In the center, a hole in the wall. Not a crack, a perfect hole, as if someone had dug it using only their hands. David recoiled. A sour smell of mold and metal wafted from the room, almost nauseating. Turning to the hallway, he saw the janitor standing a few meters away, pale.
"You shouldn't look at that,"
the man said, with a voice that betrayed a tremor.
"It's better to close that door."
"What is that room?"
David insisted. The janitor took a deep breath, looking away.
"There are things that are better left uncalled."
And he simply slammed the door shut. That night, David tried to sleep, but at 3 a.m., the exact time the whispering usually started, something fell in the bathroom. He ran in and found the mirror cracked. The crack formed a strange circle, similar to the symbol in room 213. But what really chilled his spine was seeing in the corner of the glass a pair of eyes staring back at him, eyes that were not his own. They were yellowish, deep, fixed. When he blinked, they vanished. David fled from the bathroom and almost collapsed in the hallway. The next morning, completely disturbed, David called Avner, a rabbi he had met by chance years earlier at a lecture. He recounted the events, omitting only the detail of the eyes, fearing he'd sound insane. When he mentioned the phrase "Petah li," the rabbi fell silent for long seconds. Then he replied,
That is the language of a dibuk, a wandering spirit trapped between worlds, trying to attach itself to someone. Usually it connects where there was a tragic death, where the soul found no rest.
And what do I do?
David asked, sweating.
You need to leave that place, immediately. A dibuk always tries to enter through the weakest protection, be it a wall, a mirror, or flesh.
The call dropped. David tried to call back, but he only heard static. At nightfall, the temperature in the apartment plummeted. It was like being inside an industrial freezer. The light bulb flickered endlessly. And then came the whisper, now so close it seemed to be right behind the nape of his neck.
Petah li.
David turned around. The wall behind the bed was sinking in, like a breathing lung. Plaster and paint moved, contorting, as if something was pushing from the inside. And then, a gray arm, desiccated, with black nails, punched through the wall. David screamed and ran for the exit door, but it wouldn't open. The wall kept tearing open. First an arm, then the shoulder, then the head, tilted to the side as if the neck had been broken a long time ago. The eyes were exactly those from the mirror. The being took one step forward, then another. David backed away until he was pressed against the corner of the room, trembling while the creature approached. The creature stopped, less than an arm's length away. It tilted its face, opened its mouth in a crooked smile, and murmured,
Let me in.
David closed his eyes, desperate. Silence. No sound, no breathing. He felt for a moment that maybe everything had stopped. Maybe it had disappeared. Then a cold hand touched his shoulder, and a voice screamed in his ear, so close it seemed inside his own head.
I am already here.
David was found muttering words in Hebrew through the streets of Camden and spent the rest of his life committed to the old Bedlam Asylum. However, what accompanied him there didn't leave him in peace either. Patients and nurses began to hear knockings and murmurs coming from the walls near him, always at 3 a.m. For safety, they isolated David in room 213, and he was tormented until the end of his life, a little over a decade ago. But to this day, those who work at the hospital guarantee that when the corridor is silent, a faint voice still whispers from inside.
Petah li, Petah li, Petah li.
So, did you like this story? If so, leave a comment below about what other legends, mysteries, or dark cases you want to see here. I really want to know what you thought and which stories I should tell in the next videos. Don't forget to share, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It helps a lot and ensures you don't miss any new accounts. Thanks for watching until the end. And now, if you hear a whisper coming from the wall tonight, do not answer.